So this is what will so people online can see everyone that's here and vice versa.
Can't see where the camera is.
Oh, it's this device here.
Oh, that thing.
It's quite good. So it turns.
I thought it was a coffee pot.
No, it's called the owl because it looks in all directions, so you can see all the way around.
Wanders around.
Yes, it's very handy. Hi Zoe, good to see you.
Hey Sam. Can I just chat to you really quickly before the people arrive, even though we're being recorded? So awkward. Can I just apologise? I've been so shoddy at responding to your emails. It has been absolutely chaotic, busy here. We would love to do another LGBT awareness session. Do you have some dates that you have in mind for that?
Yeah, not right now, but I'll be able to as soon as the meeting's done, or possibly tomorrow. I will get in touch with you about that, and you can give.
Yeah, if you do, and I'll find a member of the team to do that for you.
Thank you.
But I just want to apologise because I have been shocking at my comms. So yeah, I'm really sorry.
No problem at all.
Thanks. I'm also going to turn my camera off for a second because I'm eating my lunch. I really don't want that to be recorded for the prosperity of life.
Sorry, Will or Peter, could I just get you to close those doors? Thank you. Thank you. Hi there, Keisha and Key. Thank you for joining us today. Good to see you both.
Hello, Sam. Good afternoon. Thank you. Hi. How are you doing? You okay?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah. You're not on holiday like everybody else?
Not yet. No, my holidays next week. So I'm still working at the moment.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Have you tried?
So yeah, for those in the room and online, it's has gone past 2 now, but we'll make a start shortly, like when a few more people arrive. Give it about 5 minutes, something like that, and then we'll make a start. Good afternoon, Wayne. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so yes, although we are late on, although we are still short on numbers at the moment, I think we'll make a start, and then hopefully some more will join us as we go through the meeting. But yeah, good to see you all in person and online today. So thank you for joining. I know it's a busy time in the summer and things, so it's good that you've been able to make time to attend today. So just before we start for today's meeting with Southampton and Southampton Hate Crime Network, just a few things. So like most of you are doing at the moment, you just keep your, or for those online, if you do keep your cameras on mute unless you're speaking, that'd be great, just to avoid the background interference. But please feel free to ask questions throughout if you're unsure on anything. So yeah, and another thing, we are recording today's meeting, so if you do have a problem with that, just let me know. That's purely for the benefit of us and for the those that can't attend the meeting today, so they can still see it afterwards. But yes, before we go into the kind of content of today's meeting, I think it'll be good to do some introductions, and then we'll go through some of the apologies that we have for this meeting as well. So I'll start with myself, and then we'll go around the around everyone. So yes, I'm Sam Waddington, and I'm the coordinator for the Southampton and South Hampshire Hate Crime Network, and I work from Spectrum Centre for Independent Living. So we'll go around the room first, and then we'll go online. So we'll start with you, Peter.
Hi, my name is Peter Kelly. I work for a local printing company known as Hampshire Press Trojan Mailing, and we're only here because of we've started a little something called Defy Hate, and it seemed to fit the bill with what you guys are up to. So I'm here to learn.
Okay, thank you, Peter. And Will?
Afternoon, everyone. Will Bergstrom. I'm a community cohesion advisor. I usually represent the Eastern Network, but I've also been asked to cover for Amadeus too. We usually cover the Southampton policing side of things.
Okay, thank you. And Dave?
Hi, I'm Dave Shields, councillor for Fremantle Ward. Actually, I live just around the corner from Trojan, if they're still in the place down in Millwall Road East. And I'm also, for this year, the Sheriff of Southampton, which is an honorary title rather than, doesn't give me enforcement powers, sadly, but it does mean I'll probably be going well, be the Lord Mayor next year. So I think it's in that kind of capacity that I, from a civil society, that I want to be still involved in this network. If that's okay with both here. That's me.
Okay, thank you, Dave. And for those online, we'll go with Key first.
Hey, my name is Keeling. Sorry for my laptop's camera doesn't work, so I can hear you guys, but unfortunately you can't see me. I don't know why the camera doesn't work. My name is Keeling, and I'm working for University of Southampton, based the well-being team, and I'm responsible for the hate crime which students report to our report and support tools.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Zoe?
Hello, I'm Zoe, pronouns are she, her. I manage Breakout Youth LGBTQ plus awareness support for young people aged 11 to 25 in Southampton, Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. It's good to see you all.
Thank you. And Keisha?
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kishore Patel, and I work for Action Hampshire, and I'm their Communities Project Officer. Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And Wayne?
Oh, let me just get my camera. Hi everyone. My name is Wayne, and I work for Yellow Door. So I work for the ISFA team, which is the Independent Sexual Violence Advocacy Service. But I also work for the DIA team, which is the Diversity and Inclusion Advocacy Service at Yellow Door as well.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. And Charlie, don't know if we've had you before, but
Hi, yeah, I'm the safeguarding manager at Southampton University.
brilliant. Thank you very much. Nice to see you today. Okay, yeah, well, many thanks everyone for the introductions. So as I mentioned, there have been a few apologies for this meeting, more than usual, I think, probably because of the time of year, but yeah, the ones we have been, yeah, there's some that we've just been informed about today, but the ones we did know about were, yeah, as Will was saying, Ahmed Sasso and Stuart Baker, who normally attend these meetings from Hampshire Police, are unable to do so today, as well as, unfortunately, I'm the only representative from Spectrum today as well. My colleagues Ian Loynes and Mohammed Akib are both unable to attend as well, so I'm here on their behalf as well. Okay, so what we'll do first, before we get into the real sort of the proper bits of the meeting, we'll talk about the action points from the last meeting. for those of you that are in person, you'll see them on your table. But I will also put them on the screen as well for those that are attending remotely. And we'll just briefly update you on where we're at since the last meeting on those. So if you just bear with me while we get those set up. Okay, so hopefully that's everyone can see that clearly on the screen. So we'll just go through these one by one. So you'll see on the first, you'll see on the first action point here, we've got, so this is from the meeting on the 25th of May earlier this year. So this is our last meeting. So the first point here is hate crime statistics presented by Hampshire Police, and that was Stuart Baker, who is the current hate crime lead for Southampton. Now he showed the statistics for January to March 2023, so quarter 1 of this year. This is something we're trying to implement into meetings this year, so that get representatives from the police to give a detailed report on the statistics of each quarter at these meetings, and then collect feedback from the network. So what we said on that was that he wanted to arrange for the presentation, statistical presentation, to be sent to the network so that they could come with any questions ahead of the meeting. So that has been done prior to this meeting. And there was a number of feedback on those statistics, number of points of feedback on the statistics that were presented at the last meeting. These included things like what else we want to show, what else do we maybe want to show in addition to what we're showing already. And I know that these have been sort of taken on board and for future kind of presentations of statistics. And if there's any other feedback today, that can also be taken on board when we go through the statistics. So we were also going to do a calendar of events for National Hate Crime Awareness Week, which is coming up in October. That was to start the planning early. I think what we found from that was that it was maybe too early to find out about those plans. So that's probably going to be something we're going to take forward from this meeting with only 2 months to go. So hopefully we'll get more of an idea. But we are going to discuss Hate Crime Week later in the meeting as well. So I'll leave that for then. Also, so as most of you know, we've been doing a number of awareness sessions over the last few years to raise awareness of different communities and types of hate crime. Now, this is something that we spoke about last meeting to see what appetite there was for some organisations, other organisations, to do more of these sessions. There seemed to be quite a bit of appetite. So currently we are liaising with these groups to set up future awareness sessions, which you'll be informed about and able to attend if you so wish. The next point was for signposting materials for third-party hate crime reporting centres. Now, most of we just really updated people on what we were doing to help reporting centres promote themselves better so that they get more people reporting hate crime. There were a number of suggestions from that of how we can do that more effectively, which have been taken on board, and we're currently sort of still working on implementing those to give the best support. And then also there was feedback on the poster that my colleague Mohammed presented as an example of what we were providing to mosques in Southampton to promote themselves as reporting centres. And again, there were a few suggestions of what can be done to make those posters more effective, and those were taken on board. And then finally, the joining the network's governance committee. So as most of you will know, we have a governance committee that meets a few weeks prior to meetings. These meetings that discusses what the kind of agenda should be for the network. So that's something we'd still be interested in others attending if they're able to represent more communities. So again, if that is still we had Zoe and Parvin who were interested in attending on behalf of their organisations, and they were invited to the last meeting. And same goes for future meetings. If you're interested in joining that, then you can let us know. Any other business? Keelan gave a useful sort of presentation about the hate crime work that he's involved in at Southampton University. And again, that's something that members could email Key about if they had any further information. And now this is quite good, because this was about, as you've seen, Peter gave his introductions from Trojan Publishing, which we've invited Peter today from Trojan Publishing to talk about his project later on. So we will leave that until then. And I felt it was better for Peter to come to today's meeting and then let you know about that. So yes, we'll explore that later. And then, yes, I was going to send out all the information about community events that the network could attend last year, this summer, the last few months. Yeah, a number of our members got in touch with us to help at some of our events, which was great. So yeah, that's all the action points really. That's just to give you a little bit of an update on where we are with those. So didn't want to spend too long on that, but yes, that's where we are. Okay, so yeah, if there aren't any questions, we will move on to the next point. What we are going to do now is the statistical update, which we talked about. So this is what Will, on behalf of Hampshire Police, has gathered to show you the hate crime picture in Southampton of the last few years, the last few months. So the quarter two, should we say? So that's April to June 2023. Obviously, we'll do the presentation, then take any questions you may have. Just bear in mind that Will is Will's area that deals with isn't exclusively Southampton, so some questions may not be able to be answered, but I'm sure Will do the best he can to do that. So what I'll do is I'll share the screen with the stats, and then I will hand over to Will to take you through those. So just bear with me again while I get that set up. Okay, we'll just get that to full screen and then send over. Okay, over to you then, Will.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll just go through, I think last time was the first time you had the stats in this format, is that right?
That's correct.
So based on that, Stu and Ahmed asked me to put together some of the numbers. So I'll quickly go through that. I won't go into too much detail unless anyone has any specific questions, because I don't want to overwhelm people with numbers, but it'll be interesting to see kind of how this reflects your experiences as a network. And then, yeah, as Sam said, happy to try to answer any questions that you might have. But if it's anything kind of very specific to Southampton, I might have to refer to Ahmed and Stu when they come back. But in essence, so the numbers you see on this screen, most of the stats I go through will be Southampton specific. However, this one is all of Hampshire and Isle of Wight, just to put everything in context. So as you'll see there, during the period of April to June, which is the numbers that we have currently, we had about 113 hate crimes. What I would say is, obviously, with all stats, take the exact numbers with a bit of pinch of salt, because some of them will be duplicates, as in being the same incident, but multiple crimes involved, and so on. But approximately 1,113 hate crimes. That's down 3% from the same period as last year, and it's up 4% from the previous period that we looked at, which would be, what did we say? February to April, approximately. That would be Q1. So compared to that, those numbers were up by 4%. To be honest, that's pretty much what we would expect. We always see a bit of an increase in hate crime during the summer period. So that's nothing overly surprising to us. And in terms of the increase in numbers, actually 4% isn't that much. I think the fact that the weather hasn't been that great has probably played an impact on the fact that we haven't seen the same temporal influence that we usually see during this time of the year. As you can see, since July 2020, numbers have been going up consistently. Again, we talk about this quite a bit, and there's quite a bit of academic research to support this, that's generally a positive, meaning people are more confident to report hate crime, they're more able to report hate crime, and probably a lot more people are aware of what hate crime is as well, which is something that we're working on, obviously, with the network and the great work that you do. So we see that kind of as a success story, because we know hate crime happens anyway. So we just want people to be able to report it and overcome that dark figure of hate crime that we still have. So not sure if there are any questions on this slide. If not, then I'll move on to the Southampton specific numbers. Oh, that one. Yeah.
Okay.
So these are Southampton specifically. So again, quite a similar picture, around 291 hate crimes, so about 300 hate crimes, down 2% from the same period last year, and up 6% from the previous period that we looked at. So quite similar numbers to the other picture, but it just helps put it into context. And again, very slight upward trend since 2020. And then I think one of the feedbacks from the last session was to have a breakdown of the protected characteristics. So I've included that here. Again, in terms of the numbers, just for your awareness, there will be some overlap because of that intersectionality between different characteristics. So some incidents might involve hate elements of, say, 2 protected characteristics. So there will be some double counting, but again, it just gives you a bit of an understanding of the numbers. So no surprise, race is the highest one. That's, I think, in Southampton, it's always been consistently the highest one. Certainly in the force and other areas of the force, race is always consistently the highest, not one that we see, and that's the same nationally as well. So in this period, we've had a total of about 178 race-related hate crimes. That is, sorry, you can't really see the colors, but that's about 3%, I want to say, increase. Or 5%?
5%, I think you've got. Is that the top one?
Yes.
5%.
Yeah, 5% increase from the previous period, 11% down from the same period last year, followed by sexual orientation and then disability. So again, those numbers tend to interchange a bit on a weekly basis. So the sexual orientation generally tends to be our second highest one, but we do have quite regular periods when disability is the second highest one. Again, I would say a lot of that is because of the work that this network in particular does, having a lot of disability support organizations involved. So I would say there's been a focus on disability hate crime specifically in Hampshire. So I would say actually compared to some other forces, we're doing quite well in that area in terms of that awareness raising. Followed by gender identity, so that would be transgender identity, as we know. So that's 13 at the moment. Again, just in terms of the percentage increases. So again, can't really see that, but is that 62% increase?
63, yeah.
63% increase from the previous period. just bearing in mind, obviously, those numbers are very small, so any number is gonna have quite a big proportionate percentage increase. So we've gone from 8 to 13. What I would say there is perhaps not necessarily in Southampton, because I don't know the local picture as well, but certainly in the county and in the eastern area, we've seen quite a bit of an increase in trans-related hate crime specifically. That's because kind of a couple of conferences that we've had in national debates and so on. So my kind of professional assessment is that's probably the only area where we've seen a genuine increase, not just because of increased trust and confidence in reporting, but an actual increase in hate crimes as well. So that's something that we're doing a bit of work around. It might be something that we can work with the network around as well. Religion and belief, the lowest one in terms of percentages. Again, that's generally because of that intersectionality with race. So we get a lot of hate crimes where someone's targeted because of their religion and their ethnic origin. And unfortunately, sometimes the religious aspect doesn't get reported the right way because of the way the crime is described. And then we have a couple of other ones which we do scrutinize. We've recently started kind of a thing internally where we go through all of the quote unquote other hate crimes, because obviously we only report those 5 protected characteristics. So just making sure that we're using the characteristics and the descriptors the right way. So any questions around any of this? Again, I don't think in terms of numbers, there's anything overly surprising. I think it's pretty much what we would expect in terms of the proportions of the different ones, but I'm happy to take any feedback if anyone disagrees or is surprised by any of those numbers.
Yeah, any thoughts, feedback from Will, either on kind of what's shown, what else you might like to see shown, or the statistics generally?
Sorry, just there's another slide at the end.
Oh, sorry, Will.
That's all right, don't worry, but happy to take any questions or comments so far.
We'll go to the next slide and then we'll see it.
Right, so I think this is the last slide, but this is just because I think one of the other points of feedback was around outcome rates as well, which I know Stu included in the previous one. So again, just to kind of highlight, it's not the best acronym, but as you know, policing loves acronyms. So we call it FAT outcome rates. So that stands for formal action taken. So this is Southampton specific again, but I looked at all of Hampshire and Isle of Wight, and it's quite similar picture. So for Southampton, we've had formal action taken in about 15% of hate crimes. Again, a couple of caveats around that is obviously there's going to be a bit of delay in when it shows up in our stats, because this will be at the end of the investigation. And the other one that I wanted to mention, which we discussed in the previous meeting as well, is that this is only formally what we record. So one of the cases that we looked at in our hate crime independent advisory group scrutiny panel previously was a crime where the victim asked us to give words of advice to the offender, which we did. So we complied with the victim's request and everything, but that wouldn't show up in our statistics because it's not quote unquote a formal outcome. So again, just take that or keep that in mind when you look at these statistics, that actually it doesn't cover all of the action that we would take. But yeah, so 15%, I'm not gonna lie, that's not really where I would want it to be. I think that should be a bit higher. However, because of summer demand, because of resourcing issues and things like that, that is kind of the reality of where we are at the moment as a police force, but we are obviously always looking to improve that. In terms of previous period and same period last year, where you see the minus 12% and so on, that's in the exact number of outcomes. It's not in the percentage. So again, that doesn't really give an accurate picture. But if you look at the other one, so same period last year was 16%, and then previous period was 17%. Again, we do tend to expect our outcome rates to go down during the summer because of that summer demand. So generally, our outcome rates tend to be better during the winter period. But if you look at the kind of trend again from 2020 onwards, you'll see that our outcome rates have slowly but steadily gone up slightly. And again, you'll see that the dips around summer and winter demand. So winter 2022, we did quite a big pressure on getting those outcomes up.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think,
Yeah, so apologies, I know that Stu brought a specific case study to the last one, and I'm sure he will do to the next one as well, but because I'm not as Southampton specific, I didn't want to bring a case that I wouldn't be able to talk about properly.
yeah, no problem at all. Yes, Zoe, I'll let you,
Just a thought, question throw out there. So the number of hate crimes against people under the trans umbrella has risen. I'm just wondering if there's a direct, I don't expect you to have an answer. This is outside my thinking. Is there a direct correlation towards the links to the current sort of very anti-trans rhetoric we're seeing in a lot of the press and things? So I wonder if there is a correlation between that public perception and sort of the negativity in online, social media, newspapers and stuff, links to the increase of hate crime. That'd be an interesting thing just to roll around our brains a little bit. And I like your attitude about being positive about the rise in increase of reporting, because I agree. I don't think it necessarily means that we've got more hate crime than we probably have. It just means people have got more confidence in their better systems. So it means the system is working better, and that's got to be a good thing, I think. So yeah, that was just my 2 thoughts in my brain.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So picking up on your first question, obviously we don't have any kind of academic research to show a causal link, but I would say based on what I've seen in communities, and I'm sure you kind of see the same thing among your service users, I would say there's definitely, so the reason we've seen a genuine increase is around those national debates. And we've also had, like I said, especially in the East, we've had a number of conferences and a number of events kind of touching on the gender critical trans rights debates and all of these things. So that's partly why I think we've seen a real increase. And we've also seen an associated increase in stickering as well around some of these things. So kind of stickers being posted on places, lampposts, things like that.
What, bad messages?
Yeah. So we see that around a lot of different narratives around tension, extremism, things like that. But we've also seen it specifically about trans rights, women's rights, things like that.
I did not know that you went around looking at the stickers as well. I think that's genius, because it's an indicator of the temperature of the local area, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. So our officers aren't always able to, which is why we very much encourage communities as well. If they are around and see anything on lampposts, obviously not, you know, whatever student night it's gonna be, but if it's anything kind of community tension related, we always ask people to report that because it's a really good insight for us around tensions within communities.
Oh, I didn't realise that. I'll pass it on to my team.
great, thank you, sir. Okay, and Dave?
Yeah, thanks very much for the presentation. I appreciate that you just presented data for one quarter and compared with the same quarter last year with the previous quarter. And that's probably, for Southampton, the data is too small to enable a meaningful comparison between different sectors of the police. So we've got 4 sectors: central, north, east, west. But I know often at the end of the year, we'll, as part of our annual Safe City assessment, we will look at annual data, and hate crime will be one of those areas. And sometimes it's broken down by ward, but it might be interesting to keep an eye on if there are any significant increases or in any particular sector for any particular characteristic groups, you know. So
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't evident from here, and I'll say it's possibly not helpful to do this on a quarterly basis, but certainly looking at the end of the calendar year, having a breakdown and understanding that might give some help for where we might want to be focusing energies.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have that option in the data. Obviously, I haven't gone into that much detail, but it might be something that we can bring back on a yearly basis and break it down a bit more. And also, just to answer another question that I know came up, someone asked about hate incidents, so non-crime hate incidents, and whether we could bring that back. So obviously, as people will know, the guidance around non-crime hate incidents has changed. So I'm still trying to assess what impact that has on our data and the ability that we can do to track incidents. But I've been told that incidents will be added to this platform that we use, but it hasn't happened yet. So hopefully in the future, we'll be able to bring some form of data around incidents as well.
Great, yeah, thank you for that update. Great, okay, well, yeah, obviously you can ask any more questions you want to of Will, but if you don't have any now, then I guess you can email me or Will afterwards, and obviously we can pass any questions on to Stuart and Ahmed if they can provide if they have the information that we don't have. Okay, well, we'll move on to the next section of today's meeting. So this is really a chance for everyone to anyone to talk about anything they really want to that's hate crime related in their work that they've seen, whether that's incidents they've been informed about or just recent developments in their work to tackle or raise awareness of hate crime or any other related issues. So it's obviously useful, if you do have any information to update our other members, there might be support they can offer, or there might be it might be useful for others to know about that. So yeah, it's an opportunity really for you for anyone to talk about that if they wish, and also yeah, if there's any support you've figured out in the last few months that you think would be yeah, useful from the network, any support in any kind of format really. So yeah, is there anything that anyone wanted to particularly raise at this meeting today? No.
That's good.
Well, okay. Well, what we'll do, I think we'll go through the meeting, and obviously, if you pick up anything as we go, then if you think of anything as you go, then you can always raise it then. So yes, we'll move on. So this part of the meeting, I wanted to really talk about some of the developments that we've been thinking about in the area of kind of campaigning and branding for the network, really. So there's been a bit of discussion on what we're kind of the branding that we've got at the moment and the campaigning, which obviously goes hand in hand. Though obviously, as you all know, our campaign is the Love Don't Hate message that we've had since really the network was formed, and obviously that's been our message ever since, and we think that's been quite effective to get the right message out there to tackle hate crime. Obviously, that has been around for a while, and I'm aware that there have been some feedback on it and its effectiveness, and obviously we still believe it's quite a good positive message, but yeah, I think it was worth mentioning it today in today's meeting on just to see where people are at, really, what people's feedback on that is, and whether they feel that still works, whether they think any changes are needed. Obviously, any changes that are made to it have to be kind of carefully considered, because you want to make sure we get the right messages out there. But it's I think I thought it was worth bringing up to see what the thoughts are about the kind of campaign. Yes, the branding that we use. I know that there have been some other thoughts shared from our conversations with other groups, other members of the public, and which I'll mention in a minute. And we also had those explored at our governance committee meeting recently. But yeah, I would I'll open it up to anyone that has any comments on our branding at the moment, and whether they've got any thoughts or feedback. Anyone in the room or anyone online equally. No, okay. No. Well, if there isn't any, I think one of the things that we were keen on doing, I will share now, which I think is probably, if there's no general consensus of what, whether it's, good or bad, if you like, then I think we'll, go ahead with what we wanted to do. And obviously we can, give your feedback on that. So what the plan was, pretty much after we discussed this at our governance meeting, was potentially to do a different style of campaigning. Now, obviously, our campaigning at the moment is a very positive sort of the love don't hate message is very much about, you know, encouraging people to be more accepting of other communities, and that's generally and to be more tolerant towards others, and love don't hate obviously gives across that message. And there's different strategies to campaigning, and one of those is going in maybe with a more harder approach, which can sometimes be more effective. You know, something very much that, you know, sends across the message, you know, about don't do hate crime, or but very much highlights the negatives of it, which, although that maybe doesn't work in all aspects, it can work sometimes. So what we might try and do is develop a campaign that has a different, maybe that harder kind of approach for maybe a period of a certain, you know, maybe a quarter or something like that. What do you mean
by a harder approach? What sort of things does that include?
I think a harder approach, what we get across by that, is not something that's as celebratory in terms of diversity. So the love don't hate message is something I think we like. We just want to see if another approach works as well. And the harder approach, really, what we mean by that, I think, is an approach where we're just trying to give across the message that hate crime is bad, and the kind of negative consequences of that. So it's just something simple, like, I don't know what that would be, you'd have to have discussion, but something like don't hate others, or I don't know, that's just an example, but I don't know what it would be.
Yeah,
but
I mean, there's a bit of psychology in it, obviously, but experience from government strategies on smoking, on drugs, and all sorts of other things in the past has suggested a harder approach can be counterproductive.
Yeah, I do take that on board. Yeah,
you have to be a bit careful on that one.
Yeah, no, precisely. I think that's what we feel. I think our general feeling is that the love don't hate message was brought in to avoid that that counterproductive nature, and I think that's a very important point to make, because yes, it sometimes being more positive about things can breed positivity, and then if you breed positivity, positive thoughts generate, and that's a great way of.
But if I could,
you go, Dave.
some thoughts.
Yeah,
I mean, there is a fireman out there being whipped up. Is that our resources we have for tackling crime and disorder are stretched, and isn't it wrong? It's wrong that we should be spending money on non-crimes like hate crime, and that argument is gaining currency on social media. And I think depending which social media you look at, and I think that will get the environment that we find ourselves in politically, with a general election looming, that I think you're going to see more of this. And so I think there might be some merit in turning around and sort of like saying, well, hate crime is serious. It's not a non-crime. It's not a lesser crime. It's unacceptable, and we must all stand up to it. So I think that's the point. Now whether saying loving people is a nice thing to do, it's a good, who could be against it, but actually getting people to report what they see as an unacceptable behaviour, perhaps is a step further. And now whether you use shock tactics in doing that, or whether we just use more less oblique messaging about doing that might be the conversation that's needed.
I mean, although I say a hard approach, I think that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be really in your face. It just has to be a bit more kind of just really telling people about the seriousness, as Dave suggests. And I think that's to do with all manner of things. That's not necessary to do.
Where does this messaging go, or where do you plan to put this messaging?
In all sorts of places. I think the messaging predominantly it's how the messaging we use on social media. It would be the resources that we have. So we perhaps create posters and what we've got obviously our badges, wristbands, and those might be developed with a different message, or we might. But yeah, I think that we would look to, if we were to do another campaign, not to say it'd be a long-term campaign, maybe just a short-term one to try whether it works. We probably wouldn't create as much if it's a short-term campaign, but we certainly would. All our branding, all our messaging we'd try, and for a period we'd try and make sure it has all this a new logo, a new message, or whatever. So that would be
Do you have
planned.
connections with the local media, the Southampton Echo, and the, you know, are they on board with this sort of, because people still read papers, and
Yeah.
even the TV stations.
I think it's just, I think the exposure and just having their you know, the connections with them is the one thing that we you know, we have to have probably build a little bit more. I think we have been on TV, we've been on radio on occasions, but it's not a regular thing.
It's repetition of the
but
message.
I think that's something we'd like to do. We'd like the media to be more involved, certainly, in what we do. Yeah, and that's why we're trying to put an emphasis on what more we can do, or what we're trying to focus, or just certainly have discussions about our approach to campaigning.
Within the network, are there people active on social media that can look for this negativity that David's just mentioned and actually counter it as it happens?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you drown.
Would you?
Yeah, I mean, just to say, I mean, I've been impressed in recent year, the sharpening up of some of the messages on television, mainly is what I've used to do some on social media, about online hate, where you've had that in, you know, where you've had prominent sports personalities talking about what it means to be sort of like being trolled and things like that. I thought that was quite effective, and that might be something good. But certainly, I think an awful lot of the hate crime I'm coming across is online, and you know, I wince sometimes when I look at, you know, like you mentioned, the Daily Echo. An awful lot of the stories that there, which is about clickbait, do sometimes get people saying things which are very clearly hate crime, and they don't stay on there. You know, you have to complain to ask them to take it down before they do, because it's driving people on there. But it goes on, and there are other. I mean, I use Nextdoor, and I try and counteract it where I come across it. But I don't want to be drawn into a culture war if I can avoid it. But there's an awful lot of that. A lot of it's subliminal, dog whistle. So I do think there's something about how we better respond to issues as and when they crop up, you know, on various social media channels. But there's an awful lot of it about, I'm afraid.
And I guess obviously as an organization, we don't want to influence what you do as a network, because there's a reason that we're somewhat separate, although we work closely together, obviously. But I guess just a thought to mention is that they don't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. So it doesn't have to be love or this hardline approach. You can do both, or a combination of both.
And yeah, sorry though, I will bring you up just to comment on Will. I think that's the kind of approach that we want to take almost. I think what we wanted to do was not to say, oh, the love don't hate message is not something we'll go back to, but I think it's worth thinking about whether there's other ways of approaches to take, and that was kind of an idea of doing a short-term approach that's perhaps a little bit different to the love don't hate message.
Yeah.
And
I'll
then
give an example, because obviously we're making our plans for National Hate Crime Awareness Week, and I know that will come up on the agenda. But one of the things that we discussed is, because we do a lot for National Inclusion Week as well, which is 2 weeks before National Hate Crime Awareness Week. And in between, we've sometimes trialed doing a prevent week or some sort of focus on extremism. So our plans for this year are to have them separate still, so we still keep the core messaging, but kind of combine all of them and go from inclusion, this is why we're trying to counter hate crime, this is what happens when you have community tensions and that inclusion breaks down, and then kind of that leads to hate crime. So I have almost a, I don't know, line that goes through the 3 weeks that kind of shows that progression. And that again allows us to keep all of that messaging. So it's about building inclusion, it's about what happens when that breaks down, it's about countering hate crime as well.
So how does that go out to the public?
So we do kind of our comms campaigns and everything like that, and then we do community engagement events as well, and then through our work with partners.
Great, okay, yeah, thank you, Will, for that. Yeah, Zoe, that over to you.
3 little things really quickly. Number one, just to echo the echo in a way, comments. If you were just to see a negative, sometimes their stories can be a little bit on the clickbaity, get people to look at, but if you ever look at the comments was where a cesspit of hatred lives. So actually, I think it does perpetuate it, because when you start reading the comments, you know, it just feeds it even more. And it is exhausting trying to look for examples of this. I do this quite a lot, especially in social media and X, as known, Twitter formerly known as, whatever it's called now. I mean, that is also a bit of a pool for growing toxicity, and the comments in there are awful. I think if you have the same message the whole time, the love, don't hate, then actually the same message becomes invisible. So swapping it up does make sense, because it almost refreshes, doesn't it? People, when you see the same roadside all the time, they'll stop seeing it, because that's the way the brain works. My little thought just about the love, don't hate thing is, I'm just thinking about, if we, that love, don't hate, this is a thought that's not really formed, but it's going to come out of my mouth, so I might change my mind halfway through towards the end of it, which often happens in my brain. Love, don't hate is, I think, is great, but if you're trying to get people who are not very tolerant and not very accepting of other communities to not just be hateful and perpetrators of hate crime, kind of telling them to love might be an extreme too far, because you're never going to get them to love the group they don't like. So I wonder if there's a way of just thinking about that language, because that also might shut people down to just being kind, because they might be like, well, I'm never going to love the trans community or the whatever community, because you'll never change their personal narrative and belief system to that extent. And maybe sort of having love in them might turn them off. Am I making any sense there? This is a formed thought in my brain. Am I making any sense?
Yes, you are, Zoe, yeah. Just to say that this is kind of where what we're doing sort of dovetails in with what you're saying. We're not saying to everybody to love everybody. The defy hate message that we're coming up with is defy one's own hate, not other people's. So you look inwards first. So if you look at yourself, it's a subliminal message perhaps, but it's not telling people you must love everybody.
That's never going to happen.
Of course, you know, people are people, aren't they? We all have our issues. I mean, I hate middle lane motorway muppets, but there you go. So I want to carve out on our defy hate, so that I can allow that one. But yeah,
I equally love the fact that love, don't hate is such a positive message. Let's prime the positive. So yeah, I don't have a better solution, Sam. Just a thought that popped into my brain.
Thank you.
So I think your basic message is right. It's just perhaps variations around it.
Yeah, I think that's what we want to do, because certainly we don't believe that the love, don't hate hasn't been useful to us. It felt like at the time to at least think about whether there are any options for refreshing that, and perhaps there might be scope to do several different campaigns throughout a year or something like that. But obviously that will be discussed with the whole network.
Do you have access to graphic design?
That's something we don't have. We kind of don't have that specifically. So any contacts we've got. I mean, that's
perhaps where we can help. We have considerable graphic design abilities where we are. So we're making that available to the network if we can afford to do so.
Yeah.
So some things might be costed in, but some things hopefully not.
Yeah.
If that helps.
Yes, I think any support is useful, especially if we're on the same kind of message across. And
authorities I've got quite clearly a well-defined striking brand, which says love, don't hate, I don't think it would be a good idea to completely rebrand.
No.
No.
So I do think we need to stick with that as
Yeah.
brand.
Oh, yeah.
And then do some work on some of the messaging and some of the narrative that goes that.
Oh,
to
yeah.
that point. I think that, but we would still stick with this.
Oh, absolutely.
Not suggesting any change, not suggest, no.
Yeah.
No, I think that would be quite essential for us because we don't want to obviously create something. Although, yeah, Zoe's point was good about, you want to refresh things, but you don't want to refresh them completely so that people forget that original message. So yeah, no, that's certainly something we would bear in mind. But yeah, that's kind of, and I think that was where it was quite useful for Peter to give that introduction to what his campaign's about, because I think what important for both of us, we have the same kind of aims of what we want to achieve, which is essentially to tackle hate crime and relevant issues. So obviously, I think what we're going to try and do is support each other's campaigns to help to get that message out there, because obviously it will benefit.
But you talked about posters and things, and that's just what prompted me to think about it.
Yeah.
If you want this graphically done into posters or pop-up things for
We might
trade shows,
well do,
or
yeah.
we can put all of those things together for you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, perhaps we can have another discussion or certainly talk about that after. But yes, I think certainly that's why we've got involved with Peter's what he's doing, because obviously it's very relevant to what we're doing, and yeah, I'm sure again Peter can support any other companies, or if you want to talk to Peter, if you've got similar things that your own organizations are doing, then obviously that you can have a conversation as well. So but yeah, and in terms of the campaigning and branding, I think that was largely what we wanted to raise today. So yeah, thank you for everyone's contributions there, and we'll obviously take those on board and feed them into the action points after the meeting. Okay, moving on then. We wanted to, as I said, I wanted to have a discussion today about National Hate Crime Awareness Week, which is the 14th to the 21st of October this year. Now, I know that I said earlier on that when we discussed this back in May, it was perhaps slightly too early ahead of October. Now, obviously, it's August and there might be a few more ideas in place. I know Will obviously mentioned a few things that approach from the kind of the police's point of view. But yeah, essentially, are there any other plans or kind of initial thoughts of what that might like to achieve during that week, or what your own organisation has planned, or if you know of anything? Yeah, it was kind of a chance to share those. Zoe?
Sorry, like normal, it's just my own voice like I always hear. Just from an internal perspective, at Breakout, what we'll be doing is a whole week of sessions in our groups around sort of hate crime reporting and be able to identify it, because I think lots of our young people don't realise what hate crime is. But also maybe challenging some of our young people's own perceptions, that unconscious bias they might have about from other people, because even though they might be in a minority group which is the receiving end of hate crime, doesn't mean they don't always think so clearly about other people, because they're only human, aren't we? So we'll have a whole week focused on sessions with our young people around reporting, identifying how we can just be kinder to people, and getting young people to sort of share sort of peer learning about resilience and things like that. So we'll do that internally. That would be our plan, rather than doing something massively external, or be internal with our young people.
Yeah, no, that's great work, I think, as well, to be doing things like that. I think there's a mixture of things on a small scale and a larger scale are
Is there any public events?
Beneficial. Yes, I know of one. There will probably be more, I would imagine. More details will be shared about it. It's, I think, we didn't have confirmation whether it's definitely happening, but it was sort of event during Hate Crime Week, set up by I think certainly one of the universities, I think, and board in the city
Oh,
organisation within, yes. I think there was plans to do a kind of event about all the different opportunities that are available in terms of volunteering and other kind of community activities. And obviously we were going to attend that to promote what we're doing as well. So I know that's one event that we're certainly, if it's happening still, we're going to certainly be involved in that. And hopefully, yes, there will be others as well. But yeah, I think what it would be good is if you know, perhaps you can go away from this, and if you know, yeah, if you've thoughts about what you're doing, then perhaps you can let us know, and we'll be able to you know, look at whether we can
What about
support with that.
connections with Pride? The Pride organisation are very good at getting their message out.
Well, I think certainly we know what Zoe's doing. There's other LGBT organisations, so there might perhaps be opportunities to link with these sorts of organisations. But certainly I know the Southampton Pride I know is at the end of this month, which we would have been due to attend, but unfortunately weren't available to do so on this occasion. But yeah, there's certainly all year round there's Pride organisations, or there's LGBT organisations working, you know, that we can link with, and not just during Hate Crime Week, but yeah, so there's always those opportunities there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's kind of obviously now I know, Zoe, what you're doing. Obviously, will you inform us about that? I don't know if you wanted to expand on that, but if not, then certainly now I know perhaps there's we can get in touch with you both after the meeting and see whether there's any scope to you know, work together on these things. But yeah, in the meantime, anyone else who's got anything can also email me, and obviously we'll mention that to the wider network as well. I think one of the things we're trying to bear in mind this year as well, kind of moving forward, we've always put a lot of attention on Hate Crime Week, and I think that's rightly so, because it is, you know, it would be silly if we didn't do anything given our role. And you know, we always try and get some media coverage, and you know, put some events on, do some certain work like that. And yeah, it might link in well with our thinking about our campaigning work. That might be a chance for us to use that as a chance to actually begin some alternative campaigning. And yeah, so there's those sorts of plans, obviously. But yeah, we want to obviously make sure we do lots of similar activities throughout the whole year, not just National Hate Crime Week. So that will very much still be the intention, and you know, we still will put a good focus on Hate Crime Week, but it won't be our only focus. Perhaps compared to other years, we might not put as much, you know, pressure on ourselves to make sure that you know, we fit everything into that week, because obviously that's not possible. And you know, perhaps it's not always as effective as well, because you know, hate crime is an all year round issue, unfortunately, and we have to obviously bear that in mind. But that's not to say we'll welcome any more ideas, and obviously the more ideas we have, the more you know, we will be able to make sure we can do something effective.
I mean, you've got a representative from Southampton University, haven't you?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think if there's any thoughts from any members that do want to give, you know, that's obviously we've got the universities on board today and a few other organisations. So yeah, I mean, we would welcome any thoughts if you've got any, but certainly I think you know, yeah, it's you know, certainly the existing things that are happening are good to kind of link with, so you know, avoid the duplication. So yeah, I think it would be good to hear your thoughts. Certainly not if you can't give them now, then certainly you know, certainly after the meeting, I think it would be good to hear from you. So yeah, that's obviously doors
I've
open.
got a question.
A date,
I don't know
yeah.
How that gets answered, maybe a suggestion, and I don't know. One is, does the network have an annual meeting? As such, or is it sort of like?
Well, it's more these meetings really
Okay,
at the
that's
moment.
fine, so let's
Yeah,
answer that question. It does strike me that, we could think about producing on an annual basis, an annual report, which summarises some of the key statistics that we've got for a year, maybe
yeah,
that stuff that's there. So I'm just saying that, for example, if a report could be put together, which could be done, I would have thought fairly simply, and issued, with a press, statement, near a hate crime week, it might pick up some coverage and this opportunity to, the graphs that we'd be looking at today and those line charts,
yeah,
the chance for that to get some attention that otherwise it wouldn't get. I don't think it would be too onerous, but it would require, I think, one or two people, maybe your office, maybe people in the city safety team, just putting something together that could be put out in the name of that. And I just think
yeah.
mainstream media will probably pick up on that. You know, there's stories.
I
Yeah.
hope so. If they didn't, there's something not going right.
Yeah, that's a good point to mention, Dave. I think yeah, I think that's the thing with hate crime. You want to use, you know, if it can be used to publicise, then it's a really good opportunity.
I mean, I'm aware,
yeah.
of course, that what I said just now is because the hate crime week is in October, the likelihood is that the annual assessment of the city council's or the
Yeah,
city partnerships crimes strategy will probably take place at the end of the calendar year and then the beginning of next year. But that is often quite a detailed report, a lot of information, and some of that detail gets lost. So there's be a section in there which will look at hate crime, but it might get lost in terms of the public concern around shoplifting or violence against women and girls or something like that. So it does strike me that maybe we
Yeah.
can synchronise a little bit better some of these activities so we can maximise publicity for the different strands of activity and including hate crime.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think there's different, as you say, there's different agencies that will do important things that should be mentioned in a report. And obviously the more people you've got on board for it, the more kind of strength it has, I guess. So yeah, I mean, we've always or certainly last year we did, my colleague Mohammed did a report, and perhaps more for the network as such, and it perhaps wasn't wasn't like, it didn't perhaps go out wider, so it's obviously why it probably wouldn't it didn't have that kind of, it wasn't really publicized. So yeah, perhaps, I mean, that would kind of something like that that we expand a little bit more, and perhaps, as you say, get kind of some sort of press release done.
If the
might be
messaging doesn't
effective.
get out by one route or another, then you're kind of wasting your time. Don't mean to be brutal about it, but you've got the messaging, the media has to be involved in some form or another in order for your efforts, all the work that you guys in the background are doing to actually reach people in whatever form that takes.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say it hasn't reached people at all, though. I think
No, I'm overstating.
it definitely has, but certainly in terms of the media, I think that's been difficult for us to do, because we still are.
Well, it doesn't help that they seem to be feeding the problem instead of the solution.
No, exactly. There's a multitude of different issues, but that's not to say it's too late to get them on board, and we I think we always want to have more of an impact. So that's
I mean,
how we're going to achieve
that. That most of the information you want to do to put together in a single annual report or something of that nature is already there. I'm just thinking the newsletter articles there, you could use those as case studies, some of the statistics and those line charts that we've got. And the other thing I think that the media and wider public might be interested in is, provided you go through GDPR, the fact that it's such a large network in terms of organisations, the coverage, most people out there have no idea that it's a network of 40, 50 organisations that's been evolving. And this will, I think, stimulate interest from other people that aren't members but also
That's what we want to do, yeah.
reinforce the people who are members to feel they're part of something.
Yeah, I think it's just both those sides are just as important, because you've got a good strong network, but if we can get everyone more closer together and more involved, then that's going to push things forward. But also, yeah, you want to make sure people are aware of it who aren't connected to the network as well. And that's the one thing I think that we need to look at how we can improve on. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. You mentioned, David, that's a good starting point. Yeah, as you said, we have got all the information there that we could use. Maybe not ourselves, but certainly we can pick that up as well from other agencies, and yeah, just build something that's a little bit stronger, and then really, you know, a report that really kind of all you want to say sells ourselves, but obviously that's not the right word, because
Just one last chart then. When did this network actually get established?
2017. So you're talking what?
Nearly 6 years.
Okay, so I know sometimes there's useful anniversaries, if it's 10 years or 5 years.
Yeah.
Just what I mean, that might be an opportunity to do some celebration, and 2017 probably doesn't really, we missed 2022.
Well,
that'd be good last year.
It wouldn't really be an anniversary, but I know I think it's 5 years this autumn since the Love Don't Hate campaign was
Okay,
launched.
There you go, you got it.
Something like that. There's that. That's one of the.
That would
It's
be of interest.
Doesn't tie in exactly to.
That's close
but
enough.
But it's yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point as well. There's always, I think, something that creates a story is something that the media likes. So yes, no, yeah, okay. Well, those are all good ideas. I think we'll take those. Certainly take those on board. So thank you everyone for contributing again to that. Okay, well I think that's largely it for that agenda point then. So we'll move on to the next thing, which this is about thoughts for members to consider. Now that one of these was the branding, so we've had that discussion, which was the main thing, which is good. This is going to be rather like the action points, because this is what my colleague Mohammed had a chat with one of our members from or representative from the Muslim Council of Southampton, and they came up with a few ideas of what they might like to to share with the network, and see whether we've got any thoughts on what on those, or just to kind of to update you really. And the Muslim Council of Southampton have been one of our members since pretty much when we started. So we thought it's just useful to think of some ideas. So one of the things that, bear in mind, I didn't have this discussion. So obviously, if you have any questions, then feel free to ask them, but maybe they'll have to be put forward to my colleague. But first one was, or one of the actions was discussed was looking at producing posters and flyers, and these are to essentially for our awareness raising, but also to promote our reporting centres. So it was looking at one set of general hate crime posters and another set of posters and flyers aimed at women, and especially women from minorities. And then this is with a focus on ethnic minorities. So these posters can be distributed at mosques and perhaps shops that ethnic minority communities go to, and at schools as well. And now that's just to say that is one type of hate crime. So it might be that certain posters can be created with a focus on that area, and then other posters can be created with a focus on other areas. So this is just an idea to start with. And then we looked at whether Tal Mama, who are one of the larger national organisations who combat sort of crimes against the Muslim community, and whether there's any collaboration that the network can do with them. And then also what connections can we build with any societies at the universities that kind of support people from different ethnic backgrounds as well. Do they have any, is there any scope to get those on board as well? And this is something touching on building sort of on from the discussion we've just had about media involvement. We do have a few radio stations that are involved in the network. One of those is WAS FM, who are for the ethnic community in Southampton. And one of the things that was discussed was, can we get them to do more regular announcements about hate crime, about what our network is, and that you can use it for support. Because essentially, as we've said, that's normally being done about maybe once or twice a year. And that's, you know, obviously it needs to be done still more regularly than that. So can we use our existing contacts to support with that? And as well as Unity 101, another organisation for the kind of ethnic communities in Southampton as well. So there's those two. And then this was another thing we looked at was, I'm sorry for the detail on this. I never said this was going to be short, but the last one was looking at whether perhaps, and this is always due to funding and resources, but are there, one of the things that I know the police used to have, or certainly was used in this area, were personal safety alarms for people to use if they're facing hate crime. So maybe that's something that we can discuss or can be discussed to see, you know, whether that's useful at all. And then, yeah, I think there's one point on here, I'm not sure really what it means, so I think we'll leave that one and raise that at the actual sort of later. But certainly the other thing was just to look at yeah, what we can do with the branding moving forward, and obviously we've had that discussion now, and that will be taken on board. So that's just some things for the network to think about. And if you've got any thoughts on that, either let me know now, or you can let me know later on. But hopefully that just that might spark some thoughts from you, and you might think of something. So that was kind of the idea with that as well. So yeah, that's all I really want to say on that kind of subject. Okay, so yes, so that was about yeah, those ideas. So we'll move forward now. This is just to give you an update on where we are with our developments on building a new website for the network, which is something we believe is going to help really to give us that more greater online exposure and really have somewhere where people, you know, so make sure people know where to go about the network. So that's being kind of, we've kind of had a long time to think based on this basis on fund, how much things cost and the usefulness and things. And we've made the decision that we're going to be, for now, we're going to be kind of moving forward, building a website, and we're not going to develop a new app at this moment. Instead, we feel the website's going to be more effective. So that's our plan, and the website will be somewhere where people can. There'll be things like reporting forms on there, but also it will mainly be a place where people can really find out about the network, find out about all the good things we do. They'll be able to watch content. So very much we do have our own pages for the Hate Crime Network, but they are connected to our Spectrum website, which is great. But I think what we wanted to build was a more an independent website for the network, so that, and it's just exclusively to tell people, yeah, all about what we do, find out about how they can get support. They'll be able to see lists of members. They'll be able to do a sort of test themselves on after they've read like a quiz kind of format to test themselves, and they'll be able to purchase some of our materials as well, that we that we've got our branding on. So that's kind of where we're going with that. We're looking at someone to design the website initially. So we're building kind of a proposal or a kind of that details what we're what we want to achieve for the app, then we'll send that to some developers. And we're
Have
just
you chosen anyone?
no, at the moment we're still deciding on we're deciding on we basically want to get a few quotes, and then we'll see which ones are.
It's just that Cliff, who's helping us do ours, might well be an interesting person for you.
Okay, well,
He's brought in big time to what we're trying to do.
yeah, well, anyone that we've any connections that anybody has, so yeah, perhaps you can
Can I
send me
just say that
details. Yeah,
totally support the idea that the website is developed and which can include links to the existing app rather than necessarily put the energies into another app. For example, I did drop a line to Mohammed before today's meeting. I mean, I got this newsletter as part of the papers for today's meeting. And it'd be great if this was on a website with a link that I could then share widely. I wouldn't want to share this newsletter as an attachment to all my contacts. I mean, apart from anything else on the social media, it probably wouldn't really reach. But being able to give someone a link and I can put that on my, next door, or my various Facebook groups that I belong to, WhatsApp groups, I can easily sort of send the links there to a website, and then people will go from that point. I just think it'd be really good idea, because at the moment it seems a bit analog at the minute, and that's probably not having the same reach as we could possibly get by being a bit more digitally aloof. Yeah, I think that's always the direction we want to go in. So I think we try and do a bit of both, but certainly for things that we would digitalise everything pretty much would be available like that on this new website. So there's certainly that's part of the intention of doing the website, to make sure we're as everything is also digital. So no, thank you for mentioning that.
Does the police have connections? Do they issue connections out to support communities such as the network?
In terms of
So if someone,
content creation and stuff like that?
no, I meant,
We get a monthly newsletter from the Southampton police, which gives us various stories from what the police are getting up to.
I just think if someone contacts the police just in the background, where is a community that I can connect with? What happens with that?
I think it depends on how they contact and what the purpose is. I think if someone kind of contacts their local team, then they would have those contacts, and they would probably pass it on. So I think that kind of partnership works quite well. But
the
obviously,
Facebook group Southampton Cops as well, which is sort of more interactive. But yeah, there's lots of it about. Yeah.
Cool. I clearly don't know anything.
I think that's good feedback though, because obviously that means that our messages aren't getting through as well as they could be.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I don't suffer hate crime. I need to look.
Okay. Great.
Unless you can't wait.
So, yes, there's one more. I think we've managed to finish a bit. I think we're going to manage to finish a bit earlier, which is always good. But we have got a few more things on the agenda for today. So, the next point was we're going to be looking at the Southampton City Council have been leading, and obviously this is on behalf of the whole Southampton community and all the agencies that are involved within the in sort of tackling hate crime. So yes, they're working on building a hate crime strategy, which is something that the whole hopefully the whole of Southampton, or certain and maybe surrounding areas, will be able to use to really to have a kind of a same focus for what everyone's doing to tackling hate crime. So that's what they're building at the moment, that strategy, which is still in the draft stages. Unfortunately,
who's leading that?
The Stronger Communities team, who are they're a team that sort of have outreach with the local communities, So they're kind of on the ground a little bit more, looking at how they can support communities. So we would have, our representation from that team were going to be here today, unfortunately can't be. So I have been sent some notes, which again, I'm going to feed back to you guys, to everyone here now, and then we'll get some, you can obviously take that on board, give you some feedback now, or you can, give feedback at a later date. So what that is, that basically is summarising the public consultation work that's been happening. I know they've been doing a lot of work to kind of get public feedback, and then their kind of thoughts on where they're at with hate crime, and that's the whole host of different things. So that's their general thoughts, and so what they might like to see, what needs to be done a little bit more. So these are just the thoughts of ordinary members of the public, but it will give you an idea of what's kind of what they've kind of trying to look at the moment. So if you just bear with me while I get those notes up, and then I will talk
It
about
would be helpful there if it's available, some sort of timeline about and milestones when this strategy is going to be produced, or is going to be discussed.
Yeah, well, I think fortunately that won't be able something I can talk about, because I don't have the, but
I've made a note to myself.
yeah, well, we can get more clarity on that. I don't know how much clarity they'll be able to give us, but certainly if well, I know there has been progression on that, but obviously I appreciate that, we can look at whether there's any better idea of things from that kind of point of view. Yeah. So apologies, this isn't in a better format, but this was only just before the meeting, so I do apologise that it isn't. It is only on my emails, but we will. So yeah, I think a number of people have been spoken to, which a selection of people have been spoken to in the community about and brought up a number of issues. So I will just briefly read those. There's not much I can really comment on, but these are some of the things. So we've got doing everything possible programs to prevent hate crime to occur in the first place. So yeah, this is what people have suggested. If it occurs, early intervention to make sure it does not get worse. Increase reporting, but also improve response with clear outcomes. They spoke about training of police, teachers, public and heads of institutions, conducting targeted campaigns with clear outcomes, improve transparency, how cases are identified, managed, and outcomes shared. Want to see public scrutiny of people in charge of cases, support groups for people who experience hate crime, community network of support and education, independent advocacy groups, different from schools, local authority, police, culturally appropriate support, building confidence, restoration, punishment, but also attitude change, especially at schools, tough laws and policies. So that's a summary of the consultation. You'll see there they was. Let me know if there's any questions. So if there are, I can bring those forward. If not, then it's obviously something for you to think about, and you can come to me if you need to. Then I can feed those back to the team from the council. So yeah, I think that basically just is there to give you a flavour of what they've said so far. So these are the sorts of things that we'll be taking on board when the strategy is built, to ensure that it really does try and meet the needs of the public and what they're telling us. So that's why I think they're spending the time making sure that there is the right feedback from the public before the strategy is finalised. But yeah, hopefully they'll be able to join us for the next meeting, which will be in November, so it's a few months from now. But they'll be able to hopefully give a more substantial update than I've been able to give there. But I know that that's something that a lot of focus is being done on, and certainly when it gets to a more finalised stage, I know others will get involved, including us, the network, to give our input as well. So yeah, that's most of the agenda items for today's meeting. But obviously, there's always a chance in these meetings for any other business. So I'll open it up now for any other business that people wanted to raise, either anybody online or anybody in person, perhaps somebody that hasn't spoke today. I know there's a few that haven't contributed, that some contribute they'd like to. Yeah, Wayne?
Hi Sam, just a quick question, because I'm aware that Black History Month is coming up soon. Is the network involved with that at all?
Yeah, I think what we'll do, I know me and Mohammed are looking at that, and we want to, that's obviously quite an important thing happening in the important it's an important period. So we certainly will look at what messages and we can get out at that period. So yeah, I think we will be doing some things on it yet, but we haven't quite had the discussion yet. But yeah, I mean, anything be happy, anything that you might be doing, Yellow Door particularly, then feel free to let us know if you need any support with any of that. Yeah,
brilliant. I'll give you a call this week, Sam, about it, if that's all right. Are you available this week?
Yeah, I will be available tomorrow and Wednesday. So if you want to give me a call, please. Yeah, that's fine. No problem.
Right.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
No problem. Yes, Charlie.
Hiya, yeah, sorry, I'm from Southampton University. I don't usually attend these meetings, so you'll have to bear with me. But in terms of linking you up with societies, I'll ask Janet, who usually attends, to make that connection with our student union, because they will be the main link into all the different societies. I know Janet will have some activities planned as well for National Hate Crime Week, so I'll get her to feed that back separately. So yeah, again, apologies. I haven't had a handover, so that's why I'm being a bit quiet.
Yeah, no problem at all. Appreciate you joining the meeting anyway. So yeah, that'd be great. Pass those things on to Janet. So thank you. Yeah, and good to see you as well today. Great. Okay. Well, any other business from anybody else? No, not today. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, as always, everyone, for attending. Good to see you all. And hope you enjoy the rest of your summer, what's left of it. And we'll look forward to, hopefully hearing from you before the next meeting. But if not, catching up with you again then. So, just to mention, so the meeting is being recorded again, so just so you are aware of that. But and it will be put on our social media and website. So again, please let me know if there's a problem. But we will make sure the action points are sent out, and I'm away next week, so we'll make sure those action points are sent out. They'll be sent before the end of this week, and and then you'll be able to comment on anything from the meeting if you need to. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Take care of yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Many thanks.
Thanks, Sam. Have a lovely holiday.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.